Hey there guys, welcome back. You're at the Thrifty Journal Shop. My name's Amber. If this is your first time stopping by, hello, thank you so much for being here. So today I'm going to continue on with my series of making a trash journal. I've created a playlist for this journal. I will link it in the description. In the last video, we made this whole cover. I just showed you how I go about making a collage cover using trash and scraps and all of that good stuff. And I left off with me painting this quilt top. I really like how it turned out. It's very shimmery. All right. Okay, so because of this spine being longer, I think this is about a 5-inch spine, and the way I binded it, it does stretch your journal out a little bit. So your journal is going to be a little bit more elongated, which to me is completely fine because this is just a trash journal, a junk journal. To me, they don't have to be a certain size. Things can kind of be wonky and all of that. This is the inside, and we're going to have to probably deal with the sun today. It's out, which is beautiful. It likes to come out when I'm filming. So I'm going to try to work around the glare here. So the insides, I do want to add pockets. I don't know if we're going to do that today, but probably eventually I'll add the pockets. All right, so I wanted to show you what kind of pages I have. I did pick some out already, and I am going to put the signatures together, and then I'm going to show you how I bind it into the journal. So I went ahead and just picked some out, put them together and cut them down, but I am going to do some on camera just to show you how I hinge pages together. A lot of times when I make my big, large glue books and I run the papers this way and I use full-size pages, I hinge them together. If I use 2 different pages from 2 different books, or sometimes when you pull pages out of a book, the seam isn't always the best. So I like to add an extra, stability to the paper. So I usually hinge pages a few different ways. Sometimes I'll hinge them with fabric. And usually when I'm making them to put, in my Etsy shop or something, I always sew that just for extra security. Sometimes I do washi tape. Sometimes I will use like scraps of paper and fold them, and I'm going to show you that method. So today we're going to use that method, and we're going to use masking tape. So I have just pulled some papers. I'm going to use my painty papers. I'm going to use trash. I'm going to use book pages. I'm going to use just all sorts of stuff. You guys can use whatever you want. If you want to use scrapbook paper, if you want to use your junk box or your scrap box, whatever you want to do. Like I said, there's no rules here. So I've got some food packaging. I've got some painty papers. This was some book pages that I had coffee dyed. I've already hinged it with some colored masking tape. I've got part of a paper sack that I had sprayed some food coloring on, and I just attached it here to a coffee bag that I opened up. And I've got some like mail packaging. And what I did is I just turned it this way and just cut around. So here's where I'm going to bind it into the journal. So I'm going to have some shorter pages in here, which will be kind of cool too, because then we can extend pages if we want and do like fold out and flips and all that fun stuff. Just some junk mail, some more painty papers. I've got another box, and then just some more painty papers that I elongated. And these I did put like pockets in, and then I just hinged it together with some scraps and just used my masking tape. So it's really messy and raw and all that good stuff. I wanted to show you some paper that I made, and I'm working on putting together a video of how I made this. This was I've talked about this before, when I took the ply of a napkin and pulled it apart, and then I sprayed it with food coloring and I scrunched it all up and let it dry. So that's what I did. I scrunched up all the backs of the napkins, and then I sprayed them with food coloring and let them dry. And then I folded them out. And this is what it looks like. And so what I did here was I took freezer paper. It's got to be freezer paper because freezer paper has a plastic side and a paper side, and then you've got to iron it. But you don't have to use like Mod Podge and water and glue, and it's not messy. So, and it's got this really cool texture. Now, this side then is pretty white. I went ahead and I sprayed some of these with food coloring, and then I'm working with that. So I'm going to do a process video on that. So I thought that these would be just really cool to add to journals. So I'm going to put a few sheets of this into my journal. I've got a few things here, and I thought let's just hinge these together, and I'm just going to show you how I go about doing that. I've got some junk mail here, and I am going to put it in the long way. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how I do it with a scrap of paper. Very easy. I just cut the length of the page, and then I'll just take this and I'll fold it in half. It doesn't have to be this this wide. I could trim this down if I wanted to, but I'm just going to leave it. So what I'll do is I'll just use glue stick, and then I go back through with my sewing machine. But I'm not going to use my sewing machine for these pages. I might actually add some fabric with my sewing machine at some point in this process. But what's nice about this kind of journal is that if I decide after I put all the signatures in that I want to add fabric, it's floppy and pliable, and I can bend it, and I can actually take a page and run it through my sewing machine. That's why I love the flexible spine. So it's that easy. And then you have your page connected just by hinging it together with paper. Because I'm not going to sew it, I just might add a little bit of masking taping here just for an extra little bit of security. I think well, I don't know. I was going to say it's upside down, but that's okay. It's all good. All right. Okay. So there's a page. It's that easy. All right. Let's hinge these envelopes together. I liked this envelope with the apple here. And you can also fold this paper right here and glue this, and then you would put your needle in right here. The only thing when you do that is then, because you folded it, they're uneven, which that's okay. I think we're just going to use another little scrap of paper. Got some music paper here. Just going to cut it down. Actually, I'm just going to tear it. Fold it. And I think I might open this envelope here. Just cut. I think I've got the envelope sliced here, but I think I'm going to cut it off up here too. So this is a great way to use more of your scraps, hinging papers together. And then you've got that. And I love doing this too, because a lot of times when I'm making journals, I'll use the offcuts of when I've cut down papers for the journal, and then I'll reuse these papers in the journal. So it kind of pulls all the colors together, which is kind of cool. Same thing, just going to put another little piece of tape here. You don't have to do this, but I don't know, glue sticks aren't always like total foolproof or bomb-proof or whatever the word is. I'm going to cut that off. All right, and so we have another page. I've got this fruit bag, and instead of it going this way, I thought it could go this way, and I already cut the bottom and then just put some masking tape, and then I have this pocket here. So I thought I would elongate it, and I thought I would just attach it to this page. I did spray some food coloring on this vintage book page. So I think for this, we're just going to use some masking tape. I love this masking tape. I mentioned it in my last video. I got it on Amazon. I think I don't know if I got 10 rolls, but it's all a lot of different colors. And I also got like just the normal beigeish color, and I think I got black. And just adds a little bit of color to your journal. And honestly, I ran out of washi tape. So I don't hoard washi tape. Actually, I found a whole bunch of washi tape at a thrift store, and I've gone through it all. So I bought a few rolls like at the Dollar Tree, but you know, they don't give you much in those. So I'm on the hunt for washi tape at thrift stores. I feel like I could probably find it again, but I've been watching some videos on how to make your own washi tape. Like you can make it out of masking tape. And so I think I'm going to go that route. Any way that I can handmade or homemade things, I'm just all about it. Plus then it looks original. All right, so we've got that. That'll be a page. I've got the bottom of the paper sacks. We'll hinge those together. You can also use fabric. Like I said, you can take a piece of fabric and hinge pages together. I've done that before. It does help though if you have a sewing machine to do that part of it. So the only thing with the masking tape here, with the hinging of the pages, is that when you go to poke your needle through, it might be a bit of a challenge with tape. So your needle might get a little sticky. That's just something to consider. But I'm sort of used to that. So, because I do hinge a lot of my pages together. And also when you do this to every single page, you hinge them together. So it does thicken your signature a little bit. So just be aware of that. All right, I think I'm going to add one more page, and it's going to be this pretty paper. I want to add it long ways. And I'm almost thinking like I could add a pocket here. So then I'm thinking of like just folding it up here and having a top pocket, because I don't really care about the white side, but I like the fact that yeah, let's do that. I am going to just rip off this part, and I'll put this in my scrap bin, and we'll use that somehow later. Let's see. And like I mentioned in the last video, I cannot cut a straight line, which is okay. I'm not even going to worry about it. I could get out my paper trimmer, my little one, but it's not an issue. All right, let's hinge it together with a piece of paper. That way it's not as thick. I'm going to glue this together here because I'm going to make a top pocket. And then we're going to glue this together. All right. Okay. We have that. Add a little glue here. Okay, and then we have another page. Some of these pages might be sticking out of the ends. I might trim them off later. I might leave them hanging out. So let's see how many pages we have. I'm going to do 3 signatures. All right, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, I've got 18 pages, which is perfect. So I'm going to do 6 pages of signature. And I usually just make piles. Sometimes I'll look at things and I'll try to divvy up the thickness if I have thicker papers. I know I've got 2 pieces of cardboard here. So here's 1 signature, here's 2, and then I'm going to put this one in our 3rd. And then I just make piles. And sometimes I play around with this if I'm making, you know, other journals. But for my own journals, I just sort of wing it. So I've got 2. Let's put a paper stack in 1, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4. Let's see. Got 5, 5, 5, 6, 6, and 6. All right. So we've got 6 pages. Sometimes I like to put a smaller paper as the last page in the signature. Okay, so there is 1 signature. I am going to trim this off a bit here. I think I'm just going to, I like the ripped look. I'm going to rip that and we'll save these. I can always use these for collage. All right, so we've got 1, and then I've got this edge and this edge. So I can always glue that and we can have like a top pocket. I'm not going to do that right now. 2, 3. And some of these pages are thick. So this is going to be, this is going to be interesting because I have 2 of these. I think I'm going to swap one of the pages out from another one there. All right. We'll put this one in the center. Okay. So that's our 2nd signature. All right. This signature looks kind of flimsy, but that's okay. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I just take a few paper clips. Sometimes I'll use 4. I usually just do it like that. Okay. Just to sort of keep them from slipping and sliding around. So we've got all of these. Let's see how it fits inside the journal. okay? So it's gonna be pretty chunky already. That's okay. I've got a lot of extras hanging out of the journal, but sometimes I like stuff hanging out and just the raw messiness of a trash journal. I'm not going to worry about cutting this off right now because, like I said, with this being a floppy spine, I can always do that later. So I think I'm going to have these just like they are. This is going to be my first signature, my second signature, and my third. So usually what I do for other journals is I will make a template. I'll measure this. I'll use graph paper and I'll poke holes. I'll do a 3 pamphlet stitch. Sometimes I do a 5. I usually do 5 hole for like my big glue books where there's like bigger pages and there's more weight. I'm going to do 3 holes. And a lot of times, like I said, I'll make a graph. I'll punch the holes in here and then I will punch holes in the signature. But because this is just a trashy journal, and I don't want to do all that, I'm going to eyeball it. Okay, so if you are somebody that needs it to be precise, then you could just, put your 3 holes in and then take your template and punch them in your signatures. But I'm going to show you my method, and it might not be pretty. But what I do is I like to work from the back to the front. That's just like how I do it, but you can work from the front to the back. I also like to have my strings hanging out on the outside versus on the inside. And this time too, I might add some beads. So if that's the case and you want your strings hanging from the outside, then you need to start from the outside. So this is my last signature. So I'm going to actually punch this one in first. I'm going to use my awl. And I love this one. I think I got this at Home Depot. It just looks like a screwdriver, but it works really well and it goes through pretty thick pages. I have another one that's even more hardcore, but yeah, I'm going to use this one. I just eyeball it. So I'm going to start at the bottom here. I just make sure that my papers are lined up here, that they're not, overlapping. Okay, that they're just, lined up somewhat in the middle. But, this might be a little bit off-centered and I'm okay with that. All right. So I'm going to punch my first hole and I'm going to make sure it goes through the quilt. Okay. So there's 1. There's 2. Make sure it goes through the quilt. And because you're dealing with like the quilt, that's why this is nice to have. Now, you can always do this method on like a book if you're worried about, poking your finger or poking your table. I'm just kind of working from the side here. Here's my third one. And I'm just going to poke it through the quilt. Okay, so that one's done. So this is my last signature. So I'm just going to lay it down so I kind of know what order that they are. And then I'm just going to look to see what I did. And I might just poke the hole because this is a quilt. Sometimes you're going to have to sort of play around with that. So here is my second signature. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it and do the same sort of thing here. Bottom hole into the quilt. See it come out. Middle hole into the quilt. That one's being a little bit of a bugger. Okay. So sometimes if that's happening, I'll just pull that away and I'll just maneuver it through the material. Just watch your fingers, guys. All right. All right, here's the third one. Honestly, it does. It helps when you do a template. It does help because these are wonky. It does help when you measure. So a lot of times I will I'll do my template, I'll punch my holes here, and then I will take my signature and I just put my signature here like this, and I eyeball where the hole is, and I just sort of work my magic. I've done it long enough where I can kind of feel where the hole is inside the signature. Let's do the last one. All right. And I'm going to have it here. Do a middle one. This one's a little bit easier to poke through. Okay. And then a top one. All right. We've got all three of the holes, and they are very uneven. That's okay. Yes, they are super uneven. This might be the most unevenest signatures I've done. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I do one of them. I won't walk you through all three, but I'll show you how I do one, and then I'll do the other two. I might speed that process up, but then I will show you what everything looks like when it's done. So for this, I use a wax thread. I always use wax thread when I bind my journals and my signatures. And so I usually just do two, like a generous two and then some. So maybe more like three. It's always nice to have extra thread. And then this is like my favorite needle to use. It's got a pretty big eye here. It's a larger needle. Okay. And because I like my strings on the outside, I'm going to start from the outside. So it's kind of hard to see the hole on the outside because of the color. So a lot of times I might use a second needle. I might poke a needle through here and then I can see it, and then I'll work this needle through, but I can see the hole pretty well. So I poke it through here, through the middle. I start in the middle. That's where you want to start with a 3-hole pamphlet. Now I leave a little bit of a tail out here. Now this is where you can go down or you can go up. I always go up. Sometimes this is when I take the clips off because I feel like they get in my way. So you're just going to want to feed it through the middle hole here. And sometimes it'll just work perfectly in a perfect world. Got this last sheet of paper that's kind of wonky. Okay. All right. And I just pull that through. I want to make sure that my string out here is not being pulled through. Okay. And now we're going up to the top. And we're going through the hole. Okay. So it's coming out on this side. All right. Let's make sure. Yep. It's not flopping around. And now we're going to skip this hole. We're going down to the third one. And I'm just sort of looking to see where it's at. There it is, right here. So I'm going into the third hole, and then the third hole in the signature. So we've got that. Okay, let's turn it this way. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to take that clip off. And now we're going to go back through the center, and it's that easy. So we're going to go back through the center. You just want to make sure that when you go through the center that, you don't splice through your thread, because then you're not going to get a good pull when you go to tighten everything up, and your signature will be all shifty and wonky. So then I just go back through this hole. And sometimes with the quilt, it might not be in the exact same location, and that's okay. So we have plenty of extra strings here. And this is where I sort of play around with it. kind of work it through here. And then what I like to do is I like to have one of the strings on this side and one of the strings on this side of this string. And I pull it kind of up and down. And then I just sort of like give it a little shake and make sure that it's, you know, nice and tight and everything. That's not loose in here. And you'll be able to tell if you spliced it. And then what I do is I tie a square knot. So I go this way, and then I'll go under, and then I do a bow. Usually I do 2 bows. Kind of tie the bow the other way like a square bow. And then a lot of times I'll put a dab of glue here. And then you can cut these off. You can obviously make this shorter. You can start, if you don't like this on the outside, you can have it in the inside. But I'm going to leave these a little long because I might add some beads. So yeah, it's a little wonky. And we've got this extras hanging here. So I might cut this off. But right now I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to do the second signature. I might speed up the process, but then I will see you at the very end to show you what everything looks like. Okay guys, I am back. I got all 3 of the signatures sewn in, and I have a lot of extra papers hanging out here, but I kind of like that. I've never really had that look going on before. So I think for now, I'm going to leave it. This is very scrappy. Very, very scrappy. This is going to be fun to create in. So you can see the length between the signatures here is not even. So if you want it to be precise and all of that, make yourself a template. There are so many creators out on YouTube that you can find that will actually probably give you a very detailed way to do it. Guys, honestly, this is my least favorite thing to do when I make journals, is sewing in the signatures. And usually when I do it, it's kind of ugly. You know, I usually turn on music and I usually just do that at the very end. It's not something that I'm like, woo, yay. But because this is just a trashy journal, it kind of goes with the look of it. I'm not worried if the signatures are not perfectly spaced out. And I kind of like the fact that this journal's sort of all over the place and wonky. And this looks kind of cool here with this paper hanging out. So this is going to be like a trashy sort of junky art journal. You know, obviously you don't have to do all this to your journal. You don't have to paint. You don't have to collage. You can just use a plain old box and go with it. You know, I don't know what I'm going to do with the inside cover. I really like how scrappy that looks with this. You can see my, when I scribbled out over my address and everything, and just the crispy crunchiness of the glue. But I love having pockets in my journals because I like to stick things in there that I might want to add to this journal. So yeah, we've got 3 signatures and it is pretty bulky. Got some, you know, pockets that we can add into and some fun papers, paper sacks. We've got envelopes and just a different style, elongated style of a journal, which I like to do that too. So that's that, guys. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope it gave you some inspiration. please leave a comment down below if you found this helpful or if you enjoyed this video. And I will be back. I'm going to continue to work on this and show you some of that process. All right, well, I hope you find some sunshine. It is here in northern Michigan. It is very cold. I went out on my skis for a little bit today, but the sun is out and it's beautiful. So I hope you find some beauty today, and I hope you find some time to play around with some colorful trash. I'll see you real soon, guys. Thank you so much for watching.